The Extraordinary Life of Hallie Quinn Brown. On March 10th, 1845, Hallie Quinn Brown was born. Who knew that another brown child, born to formerly enslaved parents, would leave deep footprints in America and Europe? Her parents, Thomas and Frances Brown, had the right idea to encourage their 6 children to aim high and achieve. Hello, I'm Hallie Brown. My parents asked me, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I was born in 1845 when slavery was entrenched in America. But like so many freed parents, they wanted a better life for me and my 5 siblings. My oldest brother, Jeremiah Brown, became a politician and civil rights activist in Cleveland, Ohio. He was elected to the Ohio House of Representatives in 1885 and was the first black deputy sheriff in Ohio. Fast forward. The world finds Miss Brown. I am articulate. There, I said it before you articulate me. During a break in my teaching profession, I took an assignment promoting my alma mater, Wilberforce, as a lecturer. While visiting Hampton College in Virginia, I took a course in elocution. A new world opened. While teaching in Dayton, Ohio, I met Professor Robertson of the Boston School of Oratory, and I enrolled. That changed everything and started my long career as a public speaker. I found my true talent. My lectures for Wilberforce became more productive. I mastered formal speaking in pronunciation, style, and tone, as well as the practice of effective speech. I became an elocutionist and taught these skills at Wilberforce. I continued to lecture and became quite in demand and spoke in every state except Maine and Vermont. At Wilberforce, Brown traveled with the Wilberforce Grand Concert Company from 1881 until they disbanded in 1887. She traveled to England, Germany, Switzerland, and France, and was promoted as the Wilberforce Elocutionist, often the highlight performer, as noted in this concert flyer. The press reported that, quote, "She has read before hundreds of audiences and tens of thousands of people and has received nothing but the highest of praise from all. She possesses a voice of wonderful magnetism and great compass, and seems to have perfect control of the muscles of her throat and can vary her voice as successfully as a mockingbird. As a public reader, Miss Brown delights and enthuses her audiences. In her humorous selections, she often causes wave after wave of laughter. In her pathetic pieces, she often moves her audience to tears." End quote. Today we recognize this art form as spoken word presentation. Brown lifted it to heights that put her before European royalty. She performed before Queen Victoria and attended her royal jubilee as a guest of the Lord Mayor of London. After the Queen's death, Brown appeared before King George V and Queen Mary of Teck in a command performance. She was a star at home. Brown delighted in the poetry of Dayton's Paul Laurence Dunbar, the first nationally known Black American writer. Paul was my friend. He highly respected my presentation skills, and I suggested that we tour together. I tried to bring his words to light and life. After Dunbar's death, Brown committed to sharing his work, fearing that if not, It might be undervalued or forgotten. She included Dunbar's writings in her performances as she traveled across the United States, delivering them with flair and drama. She vowed to keep his legacy alive. But this was just one aspect of Brown's extraordinary life. Hallie Brown, the educator. Let's go back to her early life. In 1850, with passage of the Fugitive Slave Act, Thomas and Frances Brown had to take some precautions. They were both mixed raced, formerly enslaved, who found favor with their family masters. They were provided opportunities to acquire some level of economic security. They were active abolitionists who created an underground railroad station in their home. To escape possible arrest, they moved to Ontario, Canada, until the end of the Civil War. Although we were free, we had to look out for kidnappers who could snatch us and sell us into slavery. Despite being born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, hateful people were all around us. My parents feared being arrested for helping escaped slaves. After the war, in 1870, we settled in Ohio. Me and my 5 siblings were told that we had opportunities to achieve now in the United States of America, and we set out to prove it. You know about my brother Jeremiah. Well, I wanted to teach school and uplift our race. Hallie attended Wilberforce University and earned a Bachelor of Science degree. Freed people were eager to acquire an education. Older people wanted to read the Bible, and youth were told that education was their ticket to succeed. Brown dedicated her early career to teaching those who had no opportunity for an education during slavery, many of them the children of freed slaves. There was a whole generation of people who had not been allowed to read. My first teaching job was at a plantation in South Carolina. I taught children during the day and adults at night. Next, I was hired to teach at Sonora Plantation in Mississippi. Our schools were little more than shacks falling apart. Rain, cold, and wind diverted our attention from our studies, and the government claimed to have no money for repairs, and the community was very poor. So I rolled up my sleeves and enlisted 2 strong students to help me plaster the holes between the logs. I mounted a mule and rode to the gin mill, got cottonseed, and we mixed them with earth to make a mortar paste. This helped a little in keeping the rain out in class. Brown went above and beyond to uplift the community. Her excellent reputation won attention, but her outspoken advocacy for people also brought scorn. Brown returned to Ohio and taught in Dayton public schools for 4 years. Yet another direction, education administrator. In 1885, Allen University was already a significant institution with a total of 9 faculty, 304 students, and 208 graduates. The university's mission was to provide education to freedmen, former slaves, and their children. From 1885 to 1887, I served as Dean of Allen University in Columbia, South Carolina. Then I was offered the opportunity to serve as principal of Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, along with Booker T. Washington, and I accepted. I was there for 1 year. I came home to Wilberforce in 1893 and served as a professor. In this picture, I'm surrounded by my students, young women eager to learn. I also tried to instill in them the importance of civic responsibility to create a better America. I loved inspiring students. In 1920, I was honored to address cosmetology students at the fabulous Poro College complex in St. Louis, Missouri. I was invited by my friend Annie Malone, who was the first black female millionaire in America. What else was the extraordinary Hallie Quinn Brown mastering? A voice for change. The life of activist Hallie Brown. Using your talents for good. Brown was a social activist, unafraid of speaking out for what she believed. She was much in demand. She lectured about alcohol temperance, advocated for American civil rights, women's suffrage, equal access to education, and political representation for all. In 1893, I presented a paper at the World's Congress of Representative Women in Chicago. I was joined by four outstanding black women activists who also presented at the conference: Anna Julia Cooper, Fannie Berrier Williams, Fannie Jackson Copen, and Sarah Woodson Early. I spoke at the International Women's Christian Temperance Union Conference in London in 1895. As a Christian woman, I feel that alcohol use is a curse to health and progress. In 1899, I represented the United States at the International Congress of Women in London. This conference was significant because it brought together women from around the world to discuss various aspects of women's rights and many other social issues. In 1910, Brown represented the Women's Parent Missionary Society of the African Methodist Episcopal Church at the World Missionary Conference in Edinburgh, Scotland. In 1894, Brown helped found the Colored Women's League in Washington, D.C., which merged with the National Association of Colored Women in 1898, adopting the motto, "Lifting as we climb." She was president of the Ohio State Federation of Colored Women's Clubs from 1905 until 1912, and the National Association of Colored Women from 1920 until 1924. She was active in national and state politics. Brown was vice president of the Ohio Council of Republican Women, a member of the advisory committee of the National League of Women Voters, a member of the Colored Women's Department of the Republican National Committee, and chair of the executive committee of the Negro Women's National Republican League. In a letter to President Warren Harding in 1921, Brown complained about white female federal employees who were opposed to the appointment of an African American registrar to the treasurer. I wrote to President Harding, "If these women are uncomfortable with the appointment, African American women would be happy to replace at their jobs at Treasury." The 1924 Republican National Convention was spectacular. Does it surprise you that Miss Hallie Quinn Brown was a speaker there? She later directed campaign work among black women for President Calvin Coolidge. Telling our stories. Brown was an author who loved folklore and songs and made them part of her presentations. She wrote Bits and Odds, a choice selection of recitations, 1880. First Lessons in Public Speaking, 1920. Tales My Father Told Me and Other Stories, 1925. Homespun Heroines and Other Women of Distinction, 1926. Pen Pictures of Pioneers of Wilberforce, 1937. We conclude hearing a few words from Miss Brown. In 1898, Brown gave an interview with a correspondent of the Edinburgh Evening News. The correspondent wrote, "Our representative found Miss Brown eager to lay before the public the case of the American Negro, whose troubles were far from being ended by the mere process of emancipation. Miss Brown had some striking phases to narrate of the enmity of the white population towards their black brethren," she said. The feeling, of course, is most bitter in the southern states, the old slave centers. Even in the North, however, it manifests itself. I have traveled and conversed with educated people of the well-to-do class who, the moment they discovered that I had a drop or two of Negro blood in me, got out of the way, looking as though they could have kicked themselves for having even unwittingly fallen into such company. In many districts, a Negro who went into a white man's church and took a seat there would promptly be invited out, and if he did not go, would be hustled out by the police. Again, on their railways, the Negro must travel in one miserable car only, the Jim Crow car, in which all people of color, refined or not, are expected to travel. They may pay first class fare. It is all the same. And in the rougher districts of the South, a Negro who did so far forget himself as to travel in any other compartment would speedily be hauled out and subjected to mob violence. A Negro dares as much as look at a white woman. On the other hand, there is no prescription against the meanness of white travelers entering the Jim Crow compartment and molesting or insulting Negro girls and women traveling unprotected there. In the article, Miss Brown mentioned that on several occasions while traveling in southern states, she had been warned to change the seat that she occupied in the train or to leave it altogether. Hallie Quinn Brown, American. A life very well lived.